Hey guys, Tyler from Righteous Gaming here. Thanks for taking time to watch my videos. I really appreciate it. So today we're going to talk about 2025 and review how the year went for Righteous Gaming and for Flesh and Blood. So for Righteous Gaming, we were very blessed this year. We went to 15 events in 8 different countries. I never would I ever have thought that I would be able to travel as much as I have and go to as many events, but we did, and it was all very exciting. And so I just wanted to extend my thanks and my gratitude to LSS, to Trevor, and to everyone and all the tournament organizers who had me out at their events. I'm glad that y'all had me out as a vendor for Flesh and Blood, and I'm excited to see what 2026 brings. And so I made a lot of good relationships, a lot of good friendships. I know people from all over the world. I have friends all over the world, and it's really an honor and a blessing that I get to do this as a job currently. And so our goal in the future is to open up a physical game store in LGS. And so until then, vending is helping us pay the bills and save up money so that we can do that. And so I appreciate all of you guys for watching along, for following my content, for buying from me at different events, trading and selling to me as well. And so I appreciate all the transactions, all the deals that we have done throughout the year. And I'm looking forward to an even better 2026 as Fab expands on the amount of events that they've had. And so I thought it'd be fun to review the year through a few top 5 lists that I've created. And so the first list, I want to talk about the top 5 places that I've visited. So bringing up in number 5 is Kansas City. Now, Kansas City may not seem like a super exciting place, but to me it is. I was born and raised in Kansas. I spent most of my life in Kansas, and I have lived a few years in Kansas City also. And so I really enjoyed going back home for a Flesh and Blood event. I was able to see family, I was able to see old friends, and I was able to show some of my Flesh and Blood friends around the city and to show them what real barbecue tastes like. And so that was really cool. Fourth was Auckland, New Zealand. I loved going to Auckland. We went up in the Space Tower, kind of like the Space Needle in Seattle, but taller. Got to see all around the city. My friend Simon showed us around Auckland, so we took a tour of Auckland one day. Got to see a bunch of sights. Auckland is very pretty. It actually reminds me a lot of Seattle or of Portland. Very outdoorsy. Lots of beautiful scenery right on the water. And so it is a really cool place to visit. 3 is Hamburg. I've always wanted to visit Germany. I've always wanted to go there because I actually took German in high school. Took 2 years of German. We hosted a German foreign exchange student while I was in high school as well. And so I learned a lot about Germany, and I've always wanted to go there. And so I'm very happy that Flesh and Blood had a calling there. Was able to get approval from the German government to run events there. And so it was really cool to go to Hamburg to practice my German that I learned way back in high school. Still got it a little bit. And so, but one thing I learned there is that everyone spoke English, so you didn't really need to know German. Didn't really need to have translating apps because everyone kind of just understood what you were talking about anyway. So it felt a little scammed there on my learning a language, but it was really cool to practice it and to learn more words and to experience the German culture. Second is Sao Paulo, Brazil. I love Sao Paulo, love the people there, love the food there. The calling there did very well for us, and I met a lot of friends there. And there you actually do need to know Portuguese. Not everyone knows English, and so I don't know Portuguese, but I was able to find a translator for the booth for the weekend, Douglas, who helped us out a lot, and so that was pretty cool. But just the energy and the excitement that the Brazilian community brings was just unmatched. And the food is very good. If you've ever been to a Brazilian steakhouse, it's like that, but everywhere, every night you get a Brazilian steakhouse, and that was kind of normal. For us anyway, I guess because we chose to go there. But the other places that we went as well had amazing food as well. Guy showed us around, and we had pastels, and that was probably the best food that I tried all year. It was like a crispy ravioli with beef and cheese in it. It was really good. And so I love Sao Paulo. Hopefully we get to go back this year if they have another calling. So that I'm looking forward to that. And finally, the number one place that I visited this year in 2025 is actually Christchurch, New Zealand. I love New Zealand. I love traveling there. Everyone speaks English there, but it's just a very pretty country. The people are very nice, and I love Christchurch because wasn't as big as Auckland. It was a bit smaller, which is nice. You can walk around a bit easier, and the scenery was just very beautiful. I have a friend there that I've known for a while, and she toured me around the city. I got to have a whole tour experience from a local there, and the food was great. The people were very nice, and it left a big impact in my heart. And so Christchurch was my best place that I visited this year. Our top 5 events as a business, performance wise. So number 5 was U.S. Nationals. Nationals is always a good event. It being in Vegas brought a lot of people in to the event, and so especially on so close to release for a new set, it was very busy there, and so we sold a lot, bought a lot. Nationals is usually the one event a year that most people from the U.S. try to go to, so it's always a bigger event, and so it'll always do well for us. And this year being in Minneapolis, a good central location for everyone, easy to get in and out of. I'm expecting another great Nationals for the U.S. and they've already released the date of it, and it looks to be late enough away from a set release that maybe more people will go this year. 4 was Auckland. Kind of a surprise for me there. That wasn't the biggest event by any means, maybe 400 players, but was able to buy a lot there. I actually had a couple big collection purchases I had lined up before the event, and so that contributed to a great event for us, as well as people opening alpha, wanting to sell the cards that they opened as well. We were able to buy a lot of cards in Auckland, and so it did well for us. 3rd is Worlds. Worlds being 3rd on the list came to me as a little bit of a surprise because it was our best-selling event. We sold the most amount of cards there. However, we didn't buy as much there. Like I said in my previous video, Worlds, I thought going into Worlds was going to be a big buying event. I was ready to buy a lot of cards. However, it was a huge selling event for us. We sold a lot of cards there. There were a lot of players there buying all weekend, and it wasn't as much of a peak. People didn't really go there to sell a ton of stuff. They went there to buy a ton of stuff, which was very surprising for me. 2nd is the Pro Tour London. London was a good event for us. Any major Tier 4 event is good, but we did a lot of buying and selling in London. So a lot of people love going to London. The venue hall was a huge venue hall in the Excel, and it was packed. 1,500 to 2,000 people there for the weekend, unique people there for the weekend. It was a very good event. I'm excited that the world premiere is there coming up in next month. It's going to be another great event. I hope you all are able to make it out to that event. Going to England is always a good time. And the benefit is that everyone speaks English there. And so that's very exciting to me, and I'm looking forward to go back in a couple weeks. And finally, the number 1 event from this year is Sao Paulo. We went to Sao Paulo, Brazil. Well, for the first thing that made it the best event for us is that we were the only vendor there. 300, 400 players there, and we were the only one that went down and made the trip. We were slammed all weekend. Lines of 15 to 20 players all weekend, all times of all weekends. And so we did a lot of selling, a lot of buying. In Brazil, they don't have access to as good of a market as we do for singles, where they're buying and selling. And so this was a lot of players' first and best opportunities to buy cards that they aren't used to having in their local shops or access to online as well. And so it's very cool to be able to bring cards to the players there and to have them stock up, and then they were able to sell some of the newer cards they've got, a lot of promos, back to me so that they can exchange it for the cards that they've been needing from older sets, because they only have been getting distribution for a year or two. And so they don't have a lot of the older cards, and so it was really cool to be able to go meet a lot of the players. They were very grateful that we were willing to make the trip out there. It was actually went out there last minute. You know, it was I didn't agree to go until 2 weeks before the event, and because they reached out and they said, "Hey, can you come? Can you come vend? Is there any way you can come vend?" And I called Zach, and Zach was like, "Yeah, I'm free that weekend. It's spring break for us." So he was able to come. I found a translator, and it just all the pieces just kind of fell into place. And 2 weeks later, I was in Brazil. So great event. I'd love to go back. LSS, please give us another Sao Paulo event or Brazil event that we can go to. That would be great. Top 5 pickups. Top 5 things that I bought this year. Coming in number 5. This Solana mat. I've been looking for this mat for a while. I'm a big Solana guy, big light guy, kind of fits into the righteous theme. And so I've been looking for this mat for a while. It was a judge mat for one of the first seasons of judging. The head judge got it for the mat, so there weren't very many given out at all. And so to find one, it's been a couple years, and I finally found one. I actually found 2 this year. I was able to sell the other one, but this is a very pretty mat. It's not any card art. Maybe it will be in the future, but I just love how it puts you into Solana, and you kind of get an idea and feel for how that place is. And so that was really cool. I was really excited to pick up that mat. Number 4, maybe a surprise. A Sink Below from London. I really like the art on this card. How it has a London feel, kind of a biscuits or tea themed. The reason why this made my top 5 pickups list this year is that this is the first card in Flesh and Blood history that my wife asked me to buy for her. She's not really a collector. She much prefer if we sell the cards. She'd much prefer to have the money for them. But this is the first card that came out. She's like, "Hey, can you pick me up a copy when you go?" And that means a lot to me as a husband and someone who's trying to get her into collecting cards. It's the first and still the only card that she has said, "Hey, I want that card to keep." That's my card. So that's why I made my top 5 list. And that's why I'm excited to have the card, because it gives me hope for the future that maybe my wife will want to collect some other Flesh and Blood cards as well. 3rd, I picked up in Seattle, my last event. See this E-Strike here? I've had it in the background of all my videos. I picked it up a couple years ago at one of the callings, I think Dallas maybe a couple years ago, but check this out. I picked up a cold foil version too. Look at that. All shiny. Now I have 2 E-Strikes. And this one's the cold foil version. So maybe, just maybe, we'll get a Marvel version in Compendium of Wraith. And maybe, just maybe, I'll be able to get my playset and have a Marvel E-Strike if they make one. 2nd, another playmat I've been hunting for a long time. You know me, I'm a Katsu player. I finally picked up one of these Mask Momentum playmats. These are very rare. Not a ton of them exist at all. They were made for 2020 Season 4 Taiwan Armory Cup Champion. The story on these is that they got, they're not official LSS playmats. The LSS didn't print them, but they got the rights to use the artwork, and they printed them in Taiwan. Only a few of them for these champions of these regional events that they did there back in 2020, the first full year that the game was out. And so tracking down one of those playmats are very hard. Most of them are in forever homes. And so when I went to Auckland this year, there was a player there from Taiwan, and they had one of these they were trying to sell for a friend who won it back in the day. And so I had to fly halfway around the world to get it, all the way around the world to get it actually, and now it's mine, and it's not for sale. I'm very excited to have that playmat finally. And to go along with it, I finally was able to get a cold foil Mask Momentum and then a gold foil Mask Momentum as well. And so it just kind of completes my set. So I'm very excited about that. My top transaction, before we get to the top transaction, I actually forgot. I wanted to give an honorable mention on this category. Uh, Actually, no, I'm talking about that next section. Top thing that I picked up all year, this here EA Findel Spring Tunic. Now, what's so special about this specific Findel Spring Tunic? Well, let me tell you. It's only an 8.5, but it's my 8.5. So back in the day, 2021, they had the first ever Road to Nationals season. This was the prize card for getting in first place at a Road to Nationals. You got an EA tunic. That's a great prize card. They should do more of these for events like that. But I digress. And so this tunic, I won my very first decent sized fab event ever. And I immediately sold it like a bozo. I sold it for $1,200, and I sold it to a gentleman in Singapore. And I used that $1,200 when we went to Disney World, so it wasn't all lost. My wife was very grateful that I had won and sold it. But this past year, at the Kansas City Calling, I was able to. Someone was willing to sell me one at a good price, and I bought a different one. And so it was the next time. This is the second time I had an EA tunic, and I showed it to my wife. I'm like, man, Marissa, I really love this card. And it's a good memento of my very first ever win. She's like, you know what, you can keep it. And I was like shocked because it's a very expensive card. And so she said I could keep it, and I said, great. But this here spring tunic, I reached out to my buyer that I sold it to 4 years ago in Singapore, and I said, hey, I got another tunic for you. It was a PCG 9. So I said, hey, if you're going to be at Worlds, I will trade you this PCG 9 tunic, and you can trade me my 8.5 tunic back so I can have my card back. And he wasn't going to Worlds, but he knew someone that was, and we were able to do the transaction. And so I traded him a 9 for his 8.5, so he got a better grade on his tunic. It's not that sentimental to him, but it was sentimental to me, and he was very kind and gracious enough to give me my card back that I'd won back in 2021. So this is my tunic now. It'll be the last card I ever sell, and it's very pretty. And I don't care if it's getting reprinted in extended art. Forget that. This one's way better, way prettier, and it's mine, and I won it, and it means a lot to me. And so that's what collecting is all about, is that you find cards that mean a lot to you, that remind you of good, positive memories that you've had over your life, and that's what collecting is all about. And so the next category that I have is similar to this one. However, these are my top 5 transactions, top 5 coolest cards that I think have gone through the booth this year. And so these aren't cards that I have necessarily kept, but they're cool cards that I have either middleman or bought and sold or whatnot. And so number 5 are the content creator cards. So these are actually ones that I have bought and sold, but I also decided to keep a set for myself. And so I really enjoyed the content creator cards. And this year I was able to buy one of each. We got the Diabolic Offering, Apocalypse Automaton. I got a playset of Boast because they kept coming to me and they're too cheap right now. I'm hoping that they're used someday again. I got the Cosmic Awakening, Sea Legs, Punch Above your weight, the Imperial Seal of Command, and the best one that they have produced so far, a Felling of the Crown. These are very rare. They're very desirable. Cold Foil Felling of the Crown is one of my jewels as well, along with my tunic that I just talked about. And so content creator cards are one of my top 5 transactions. I put a lot of value in them because in order to get one, you have to have spoiled a card for that set. And so content creators do a lot of work, and they're very appreciated by me. And so I place a high value on them because of all the work that goes into people that earn them. And there's not a ton of each of them. There's maybe 30 or 40 of each of them. Some less, some a little more. So those are cool. The second thing that went through my booth this year is a James White Cold Foil Marvel Prism. And so if you remember his High Seas Treasure Pack openings, he signed a Marvel Prism that's a 1 of 100 and put it in there. He signed his personal copy. And so That came through my booth. The guy who opened it was semi-local to me, and he wanted to sell it to me, and I bought it, and then I sold it at Worlds this year to a very devout Prism player. And so I was very excited to get my hands on that card signed by James White. It's in the process of getting authenticated right now. No, it's not signed by James White. It's signed by Livia, I think. Livia Prima. Maybe both of them. I don't really remember. But we're in the works of getting authenticated. Since it wasn't on video that it was open, they have to reach out to Livia and ask her if she's signed any more of them. And if she hasn't, then it can get authenticated by PCG as the only one that as the one that came from directly from James White from the treasure pack. So I'm hoping that goes through for him. That was a cool card to have in the booth. My number 3 was Beatrice, the young hero Beatrice. Now Beatrice isn't an official Flesh and Blood card. However, it was a card that was made for Alan Hale, who's the COO of Legend Story Studios. It was made of his daughter, and there were 25 of them that were made, and they were all numbered and signed on the back by her when she was 5 or 6, and so they sold them for charity, and I think he kept a few for her college fund as well. And I actually met her in New Zealand. I met Bea, Bea, yeah. And she's a very nice girl. She's 10, 11, 12 now. And really cool card. Very, very rare. Very old. And the guy who bought it, he's going to love it. And it's going to be in a forever home. So that's pretty exciting. Number 2 top transaction was... I'm cheating a little bit. I'm combining my Mask Momentum playmat and a gold foil Mask Momentum that I opened from a sealed pack. And I think I called it before. I was like, man, I hope this is a Mask Momentum. And I opened it. It was a Mask Momentum. It was really cool. But that going through my booth was very exciting because I'm a Katsu player and I love Mask Momentum art and the card. And it was very cool to finally have my hands on one. And finally, the top 5 transaction, this EA Tunic. I already told you the story, but bought one and then traded, and it was it, and it came to my booth. And so again, very excited to get my card back. Trading a Tunic for a Tunic down a grade has never felt so good. Finally, the top 5 memories from this year. Honorable mention is meeting people from all over the world, getting to experience different cultures, different player bases, different markets is all very exciting to me. Number 5, we had a guy, I think I posted in the Discord, but there's a guy in Memphis named Matt, and he took a deck of Flesh and Blood cards. He took 60 cards and just ripped them in half with his bare hands. I never seen nothing like that. This dude is ripped, he's jacked, and yeah, a whole deck of 60 cards, unsleeved, stacked this high, and just rips them all in half with his hands into two piles. It was insane. I've never seen nothing like that. Maybe I'll post the video for you guys in a short soon. But it was insane. That was my number 5 memory. Number 4 memory was Nats in Vegas. Specifically getting to play my favorite game, Craps, with people. One memory that stood out to me was playing with the card guys. Andrew and Will, and I remember taking a quick water break, from the booth. I went up to go buy some waters for the guys. I was gonna plan on coming right back, but I saw them at the craps table. I couldn't resist. Sat in, threw in a couple $100. 45 minutes later, I have a bag of waters that aren't cold anymore, and we're up $1,500. It was insane. I wasn't expecting to do that, but it was pretty cool. I get back to the booth, and they're like, what took you so long? And they're like, you weren't playing craps, were you? And I was like, I was playing craps. So that was pretty fun. Third is getting to vend my first Worlds that I got to vend. It was really cool to see players coming from all over the world and for getting to bring my baby to her first event. It was pretty cool to have her there along with Marissa, because Marissa my wife used to come to all the events with me. She used to travel, and we used to go vend together, and she hasn't been able to this year because of the baby. However, she was able to go to the Worlds. It was really nice to have her at an event again. Very memorable, eating cheese sticks, and just seeing people from all over the world come in and vending. That was the biggest event I vended all year, so it was really cool. Number two, I touched on it earlier, but the Brazil calling was a great memory for me. The food, it being busy, the people, everything just made it my second memory. And my most favorite memory of the past year, cheating a little bit because it happened at the end of 2024. So I've been vending for over a full year now. I had two events at the end of 2024 in November and December. Those are my first ever events that I vended. And so my first ever event that I vended back in November 2024, the Portland Calling. I haven't been able to tell this story, and it's a very memorable story for me. But it was a guy who was from Montana, and he'd never been to a big Flesh and Blood event before. But since it was decently close, he decided to go, and he was a big Tech Levassen fan, and that was his hero. He loved that hero, and around him, his local card shop didn't really sell Flesh and Blood singles, and I sold him a Tech Levassen, the Marvel, the Singularity Marvel, and like that was his like Grail card. Like that was the card that he had been searching for, and he never thought that he was going to be able to own this card. He'd never seen one in person. He never thought it was realistic, because that's like a $600 card. He never thought that it was going to be realistic for him to buy that card or to acquire that card that he loved so much. And so he was telling me about that. He was telling me, hey, like this is like, oh, that's, you have that Marvel Singularity. That's the card that's the card I've been looking for. I was like, oh yeah, you want to buy it? And he's like, no, I could never afford that. And it's like, well, we do trade-ins if you want to do some trade-ins. And so he's like, all right, let's see what we can do. And he traded in all of his staples. He traded in his Tunic, his playset of Command and Conquers, his E-Strikes, all the cards that he'd acquired to play like other heroes and play the game with. And he paid like $150 maybe on top of the cards that he had traded him. He traded like most of the good stuff that he had, because that was the one card that he wanted, and he was so excited to have this card. When I gave it to him, he was like wanting to protect it so bad. So I put it in a sleeve and a top loader and a team bag, and when I gave it to him, he was shaking. He was shaking with the card, and he never thought that he'd be able to own this card that he was excited for. And he like carefully put it into his deck box, and put it away. And I know it's in a forever home. He's gonna take good care of it. But like to me, it didn't seem like that big of a deal, because I'm selling cards all weekend. But to him, like he never seen that card. He never thought he was going to be able to own that card. His first ever Flesh and Blood event, and that was the one card that meant a lot to him. And so having that at my first event that I ever vended, the first calling that I was ever at as a vendor, it just made it feel so special, and it set my heart on fire to vend Flesh and Blood events, and really gave me a different perspective on things. Like we're not just buying and selling. These cards that LSS has made mean something to people, and we can find joy in these things, and I don't take that for granted when I'm at the booth. It's any transaction that I have with people. Whenever someone buys from me, I really do appreciate it, and I really do thank you for the business. And I know that these cards are going to be loved, and that they mean something to people. And so it just gave me a different perspective on it right off the bat, off my first event. And so it was just really cool. It was just something I'll never forget. The guy being so excited to get the one card that he never thought that he'd be able to have. So that's my last top 5 list, but I wanted to give you guys some thoughts on my first full year of vending. Number one thought, and most important, is that Flesh and Blood is in a good spot right now. There's a lot of talk online about it not being great right now. Reprints, people selling, card prices going down. It's all noise. And I'm telling you, someone who went to 15 events this year in 8 different countries, that fab is going nowhere. Um, it's going to be consistent. Flesh and Blood for the past 4 years has been on a steady 10, 15, 20% increase year over year, and that's great for it. It's probably never going to be a top three game. It's never going to break into Pokemon, Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh levels, but that's okay. It has a very solid and strong community. The people who create and make the game and Legend Story Studios do a good job. They really care about you, the players and collectors, and they really care about um, the stores that run the events for them as well. And so Fab isn't going nowhere. This year was great for Fab. It had two banger sets and one mid all right set, but both High Seas and the Hunted were very well received, very good sets. Cards had some good value in them. The heroes and the flavor were very good, and so uh, I think that from a set standpoint, the sets were great this year. If next year can be anything comparable to that, I think it's going to be another great year. Armory decks were a huge success. They just started at the end of 2024, and now this year they expanded on their line of Armory decks. They did very well. It was very good to have an intro level product for people to pick up and play at their armories, and so I think that made this year a big success. The Mastery Pack, it wasn't the best received, and hot take, it was my favorite set of the year to both open and play. Um, they could have done a better job with maybe the pull rates or putting more hits in it, maybe a few more generics or the distribution of it, maybe running more events with it. But all in all, I think it was a great set. Having their first crack shuffle play set was Bright Lights, and it didn't go over very well because of it only being Mechanologist as like a mainline set. But putting that same concept into a Mastery Pack and making it like kind of like a secondary set, I think was just the perfect way to introduce crack shuffle play. And they put out Smash Palace with it, which even though it needs work, like it was still a great product for casual players to pick up. And to me, it shows that they're listening, they're changing, and they're adapting what they're doing based on the feedback that they're hearing. And so that's exciting to me. It shows promise and encourages me for the future of Flesh and Blood. Silver Age got introduced, and it's very exciting. It shows promise. It shows that, again, they're listening to be able to spend $20 on a deck and then go play a calling with it and be competitive. Like, that's really cool. Something a lot of games don't have. Most games don't have that. And so we'll see how Compendium of Wraith does and affects the Silver Age meta. I know right now it's a little stale. Heroes that have been good in CC are good in Silver Age. Whatever. I'm not putting too much weight into what the current meta is. They say that it's going to change Compendium of Wraith. I believe them, and I'm very excited for the set. Events have made a huge step up this year. They were bigger than ever. They were well done. If you look around the event venues, when you went to an event, there was a lot more advertisement. There's a lot more signage. There's a huge lit up learn to play display. I remember walking through the Excel in London, and there were like signs everywhere, not just outside the venue, but everywhere in the Excel. Like on different floors, different signs, even outside the venue had Flesh and Blood on it. It was very well done. They hired a new convention manager, Alex, and he's been doing a great job getting the game to conventions, all the big conventions this year. And so just a huge step up in their marketing and the events. And to me, the events are listening to player feedback and they're changing. They're introducing tournament packs for next year, which are very exciting to give players better promos for some of the events. And so they're listening. And then finally, they reprinted a few cards, brought the price down on some cards, made them more accessible and affordable for new players. And I think for the most part, the way they handled them this year has been good. It's been very good. It hasn't completely tanked prices for most of the cards that they reprinted, but has allowed them to retain some value for the players who currently held them, but then allow them to be more accessible for the players who hadn't bought them yet and still wanted to. And so I feel very blessed to be a vendor for the game. I really thank LSS for allowing me to be out there vending. I think that LSS is growing and maturing for the company. I think they were able to find a good foothold in the market this year. They were able to polish a lot of things this year and make the things that they do good. You know, they've been doing some of the similar things for the past couple of years, but this year they made them good, and they did well on them. They're consolidating the tournament circuit for next year. So they're taking what worked this year and they're expanding it to next year. You know, there's not going to be all these smaller battle hards next year. There's going to be almost twice the number of callings next year, and so that shows me that they are listening and they're changing. And so they really expanded into the casual player base this year. They introduced Smash Palace, Mastery Pack Guardian. It was very good to have players crack shuffle play. The Armory decks did really well this year, and then the Sage Silver Age format shows me that they're really concerned about getting new players into the game and not just focusing on competitive players like they've done in the past, but really trying to expand and grow the game. As someone who has gone to 8 different countries this year for Flesh and Blood, I can tell you that overseas Flesh and Blood is doing great. You know, it's growing, it's expanding. There's a lot of excitement everywhere I've gone. There's been excitement. There's been players wanting to buy in and play the game, and so I'm not worried about the game after this past year. I'm not worried about the company. They're gonna figure it out. If they do something wrong that players don't like, they're gonna fix it. You know, they're gonna listen to feedback, and I have full confidence in them. They're consistently changing and evolving. They review what they do, and they want to give players the best experience that they can at these major events. You know, there's been some new games pop up. They've had difficulties running events. They don't really know what they're doing, but LSS knows what they're doing. We're truly spoiled to have a company that we have access to, that listens to our feedback, that asks us, the players, for feedback through surveys and on social media. And I'm telling you that you can trust them, you can support them, you can play the game, you can see the world, and you can be confident going into 2026 that this game will be around and that the company is going to take care of us. And so just want to leave you guys with that. I really appreciate all the support this year, everyone who bought and sold at the booth this year, all the friends I've made this year, and I'm looking forward to building on those relationships, and looking forward to traveling to some of the similar places that I have been, and some new places as well. So 2026 is going to be great. We'll be putting out a preview video for 2026, so you'll be able to get my thoughts on everything new that they've announced so far and what we can expect beyond that as well. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch the video. Join our Discord for giveaways, for deals, for sales, and to talk to us and to talk about anything Flesh and Blood related. So thank you guys for all the support, and I hope that 2025 went well for you, and I hope 2026 is even better for you.